With recruitment, I thought it would be a good time to talk to you, Noel. Your experience, share with us your experience of working with dozens of creative agencies and creative businesses, placing people into those roles. They are, you know, the creatives of tomorrow. What sort of practices are those agencies using together with you to develop and nurture those people and get them ready for the professional world? Can you share some insight?
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you.
I'm going to focus on apprenticeships as that's really my business. But I think the three insights I'm going to share are applicable across all forms of entry-level employment. And we work with agencies that will use work experience placements, internships and apprenticeships as the role is fit. So we've got agencies that have very close relationships with colleges or universities and work very closely with those departments and will in effect cherry pick the people out to come and do work experience, and then they offer various contracts as they test out that talent and prove themselves. Equally so, they're very comfortable recruiting graduate interns. I've got some insights from what employers are telling me about the psychological commitment that interns make to employers. But that maybe will go as the unpaid internship starts to really get challenged and employers get prosecuted for doing unpaid internships. But they're also adding in a number of apprenticeships into that mix and looking at school leaving talent. And their experience there will vary according to which college or training provider they've worked with. And again, I think it's beholden on employers and agencies to start to look at and demand the best service they can from those. Because any good learning training provider should be advising an employer on the job description. That will tell you if there actually really is a job that needs doing and the type of person that needs to do it. I always ask for the job description because that will tell me whether it's an internship role, whether you need somebody to come in and do the job for you immediately, or whether it's a developmental role, and actually that's a job that somebody can learn to do as you grow your business. It also helps, I mean, we see hundreds of job descriptions. We see a few that read like this, and sorry if you are sitting there and you start to cringe, but this is what we hear. Read. We are a communications for change agency. We provide high quality outputs for project audiences, including funding agencies, peer organisations, beneficiaries and customers. We produce integrated communications from creative innovation workshops and technical infographics to digital multimedia to maximise dissemination, widen and enhance impact. I have not got a clue what that company does, never mind the average 17-year-old. The ones that sound more like this, are you someone that loves to meet new people, talk to them with the ability of making them feel comfortable with your warmth, efficiency and enthusiasm? You might be ideal then to start a career in front of house and retail in one of the best and most well-known theatres in the country. That's clear. A 17-year-old can start to see themselves in that role because there is a concrete connection made between the job that needs to be done and maybe some of the skills and qualities that they have. This clarity and simplicity needs to run throughout the job description. And in my experience, most young people are concrete rather than conceptual thinkers. A lot of very talented young people will think they can't do something rather than think they can, particularly if we're looking to try and encourage young people from diverse communities. We do tend to dress everything up in professional mystery. You know, how many of us have seen a sort of entry-level admin job that says, have you experience of purchasing and managing stock? As far as I understand that to mean is, can you shop sensibly most of the time? You know, that's what it is. Managing stock, purchasing invoice, just moving bits of paper around. And we tend to cloak everything in a professional language that alienates young people. So responsibility number one, clarity of purpose and language. Know what you want a young person to do and make sure you and they actually understand what that means in plain English. The second area I'm going to move into is this thing about qualifications or qualities. I was co-hosting a lunch last week at the Birmingham Rep with them, exploring employability and skills with a group of employers from across the creative and cultural sector. When asked what they look for in a new recruit, the responses were very familiar. I could probably ask you that question now, and you'd come up with pretty much the same list of phrases. I'm not going to, because I might move over me 8 minutes. But these phrases are things like taking responsibility, acting on their own initiative, having a go, not waiting to be told what to do, thinking for themselves, trustworthy, reliable. If they say they're going to do something, doing it. Pleasant, easy to get on with, gets on well with people, listens to others. These are all qualities because they all say that actually we can teach the skills, we can teach the knowledge, but actually if they come without the qualities, then there's not much we can do. I'm actually going to disagree with that. And I'm going to start by telling you a story about Archie. Archie was a young unemployed man that was taking part in one of our traineeship programmes. It was about the third session, and I got to know a little bit about what he does. And this session was about how you present yourself on paper. But then I got some idea of what he'd done, but I picked up his CV and took one look at it and said, well, where's all the stuff that you've done? Where is it? Where is it on this CV? And he replied, my work coach told me it wasn't relevant. And I said, well, it's bloody hell, it's no wonder you're unemployed then. Because Archie had organised a slam poetry night for 300 young people at the MAC, sorted out the booking, the ticketing, the liaison with the venue, the marketing, the event coordination, and in that one event alone, he demonstrated to me responsibility, negotiation, initiative taking, and if any of you have ever worked with highly opinionated young people who are word poets, then you know that he also demonstrated a great deal of practical diplomacy and resilience. Needless to say, his CV looked very different after we worked on it. And that's what I mean. This is the thing I want to say. It's about feedback. It's about giving young people appropriate feedback, because if they're told their experience are not relevant by professionals, then they don't know to demonstrate them on paper or in person. So that for me is responsibility number 2 when you are recruiting and employing a young person, is learn how to give and teach them how to receive feedback so that you know what to expect, they know what to expect, and be precise, objective and non-judgmental. You know, from an HR perspective, it's a skill that's sort of taken for granted, but actually working with young people, it's absolutely critical because they will get things wrong. And that is how you start to shape some of those qualities and some of those behaviours. And this is why I want to move on to the very last one, is are you always aware, are we always aware as employers of the transition that most young people are going through when moving from learning to working? As the youngest son of my best friend observed of his older brother in his final years at university, he's worse than he was when he was a moody 14-year-old. He's afraid of becoming an adult. And actually, that's what I see. Chronological age is not the defining age of becoming an adult. Leaving learning is. And some young people are ready at 17, and others are hardly ready at 23. We see it time and time again in those first 3 months doing an apprenticeship. Because of course it's work-based learning. They have to grow up very, very quickly. And those first 3 months and their success in making that transition from thinking of themselves as a young person to thinking of themselves as a young adult and learning to becoming a professional is really hard work. And so we need to demonstrate as employers patience and understanding, because it's not just they're learning to do a job of work, but it's a whole set of social skills that they're learning. 30 really is ancient to an 18-year-old. They were in year 2 when you were their age. You don't need to be But they've only ever spoken to 30-year-olds in a deferential context, not in a social context. So they're learning how to do that. There is the discipline of getting up and being accountable and becoming independent and all those things. But I really do think the biggest transition that's going on for them is becoming an adult. And some are just not ready. Most are. Our job is to work with the employers to help make that transition. But really, if it's not working out, then it's just too painful for both the employer and the young person. They're not quite ready to become adult, and it might be better that they go back into some centre-based learning rather than work-based learning. And that's the last responsibility I want to share with you is yourself. It's really not usually, in our experience, the employer's fault if an apprenticeship ends early. Actually, if it succeeds, and 80% of them do, then 80% of those young people that complete their apprenticeship move straight into full-time work with that employer. Because the employers are entering it in that spirit of wanting to make it work. So if it doesn't work, it's not your fault. As long as you have followed with practice, which by and large you do, it might just be that that young person is just not ready to make that commitment. All I'd ask of you, as employers in this room, is don't judge yourself and don't judge all young people harshly if one apprenticeship placement doesn't work out. For those of us working in recruitment, we don't say we're never going to take an intern on if we take on a dodgy intern. Don't let one young person who isn't yet ready to become an adult influence your whole view on school leaving talent. At every entry level of employment, and that is actually whether it's an intern, whether it's an apprentice, whether it's somebody you've taken to a work experience route, we're also having to manage a very significant transition for those young people, and by and large, my experience is we're all doing it to the best of our ability.
Thank you. Just one quick question there. As an industry that has always been quite heavily reliant on the graduate entry, how well is Creative Pioneers doing, and if you sort of line it up against graduates?
I think that Janet was telling me earlier, and our experience would be the same, that on current growth progressions, in a couple of years' time, there'll be as many school leavers entering the profession as there will be graduates. And that's largely because the work we're doing with careers is highlighting to young people and the professionals who work with them that this is an unbelievably tough industry to get into. And that it might be savvier to develop your networks, develop your experience, because that is what employers look for, get some real world experience. That doesn't stop you going to university. However, if you do it the other way around, you can't. So they're looking at keeping their options open. Because for the 4 and 5 that go into work, pretty much the other ones go straight on into university for the places they deserve. So it really is, I think, now beginning to be more from young people than necessarily the parents, knowing that actually what they're told them when they do their research, that they probably do need, I mean, some of the vacancies that we're advertising, I've got IBM just sat there, there were over 100 applications for their Creative Pioneers digital media vacancy. Because film production is incredibly competitive. As is design. Certainly some of the more creative roles are. Some of the ones, say marketing PR around marketing, where maybe they don't quite understand what an account exec is. We've got a job of work to do much earlier on, so that 14, 15, 16-year-olds sort of understand the variety of roles that there are. But that's beginning to change with things like the website we're launching tomorrow. Those types of things will help, and help professionals and parents communicate that.